The stars twinkled peacefully in the viewport of Research Station Aurora, hanging silently in Earth's orbit. Dr. Tom Wilson sipped his coffee as he studied the unusual energy readings on his screen. After 20 years of searching for alien life, the station's 47 scientists had grown used to false alarms and disappointments. But this was different. "Director, you need to see this," Tom called out, his eyes fixed on the rapidly changing numbers. "These readings, they're not natural." Director Jane Roberts hurried over, her usual calm demeanor showing cracks of excitement. The energy signature was unlike anything they'd ever seen, a clear sign of advanced technology. What happened next would change humanity forever. The massive ship appeared without warning, dropping out of what looked like a tear in space itself. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, all smooth curves and shimmering metal, easily 20 times the size of their research station. "My God," Tom whispered, his coffee cup floating forgotten beside him in the zero gravity. First contact. The ship's design was clearly alien, its hull covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Director Roberts immediately activated the first contact protocols they'd practiced but never expected to use. "This is Research Station Aurora, a peaceful scientific installation of Earth. We welcome you in peace and friendship," she broadcast on all frequencies, following the carefully crafted message in multiple formats that Earth's best minds had prepared for this moment. The alien ship's response came in the form of a beam of light that swept across the station. The scientists watched in wonder, not yet understanding what was happening. In the ship's command center, High Commander Vex of the Galactic Council frowned at the readings. Primitive weapons signatures detected. Military installation confirmed. His second-in-command, Officer Ral, looked uncertain. "Sir, these readings, they're barely above background radiation. If these are weapons, they're incredibly weak." "This species has achieved orbital capabilities far too quickly," Vex declared. "The Council's directives are clear. We cannot risk another aggressive species joining the galactic community. Send the warning shot." What the aliens saw as a warning shot, their advanced weapons carefully tuned to minimum power, still cut through the research station's hull like paper. The last transmission from Research Station Aurora was not a scream, not a plea for help, but a burst of data. In their final moments, the scientists did what they had trained to do. They gathered information. Every sensor, every camera, every instrument recorded and transmitted everything about the alien ship and its weapons. Captain James Miller was drinking his morning coffee in the Earth Defense Force headquarters when the news arrived. He watched the footage in complete silence, his face showing no emotion as he observed 47 of humanity's brightest minds die in the name of peace. The alien ship sent its message after the destruction. "Attention, primitive species. Your military installation has been neutralized as a warning. The Galactic Council hereby establishes a quarantine of your system. Further military development will not be tolerated." They expected panic. They expected chaos. They expected appeals for mercy. Instead, Earth responded with a single message. Message received. Then silence. In the following hours, as the alien ship maintained its position near the debris field that had been Research Station Aurora, they observed something they didn't understand. There was no panic on Earth. No chaos in the communications they monitored. Instead, they watched as humans methodically documented everything, coordinated their responses, and began what looked like a carefully organized series of protocols. Captain Miller stood in the EDF war room, looking at the detailed scans of the alien vessel captured by the dying research station. "Begin Operation Longbow," he ordered quietly, "and send my thanks to the Aurora crew. Even in death, they gave us exactly what we needed." The aliens had made 3 critical mistakes that day. They had assumed human technology was primitive because it was different. They had killed innocent scientists in the name of peace. And most importantly, they had given humanity something it had never had before, a reason to unite against a common enemy. The Galactic Council would soon learn why starting a fight with humans was the biggest mistake they'd ever made. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with polished stone and floating holograms. 12 representatives from the most powerful spacefaring races sat in their elevated pods, looking down at the traitor who dared to question their judgment. Bob Gray had been running cargo through the stars for 30 years. He was the oldest human merchant in space, though the Council didn't know that. To them, he was just another alien trader in an environment suit, his features hidden behind a reflective visor. "Distinguished Council members," Bob said, his voice steady despite his rising frustration, "I strongly advise against maintaining the quarantine of Earth." High Commander Vex's voice boomed through the chamber. "They are a pre-FTL species who developed orbital weapons. The protocols are clear." Bob fought to keep his voice calm. "Those weren't weapons you detected. That was a research station. Scientific instruments." "Impossible," Council member Tix interrupted, waving a limb dismissively. "Our scans detected energy signatures matching primitive weapons." "Because humans build things differently," Bob explained. "They had to solve problems without the benefit of Council technology. They found their own ways." The Council members exchanged looks of amusement. Humans finding their own solutions. Preposterous. Every species followed the same technological path, discovered the same principles, developed the same solutions. It was simply how progress worked. Meanwhile, in a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Miller stood before Earth's combined military leadership. The holographic displays showed the positions of every known alien vessel in their solar system. "The Council's ships follow predictable patterns," Miller explained, pointing to the patrol routes. "They think in straight lines, fixed schedules, and standard procedures. They expect us to do the same." "And we won't," General Thompson stated. It wasn't a question. Miller allowed himself a small smile. "No, sir, we won't. While they watch our planets and major installations, our stealth ships are nearly ready. They're looking for standard drive signatures, but we don't use standard drives." Back in the Council chamber, Bob made one last attempt. "Ask the mineral traders why they avoid human space. Ask the biotech merchants why they won't go near Earth's colonies." "Colonies?" Council member Ricks scoffed. "They are confined to their solar system." Bob sighed. They were so certain, so convinced of their superiority. They hadn't noticed that humans have been quietly establishing outposts for years, hidden in ways the Council never thought to look for. "Humans are different," Bob insisted. "They don't follow your normal patterns. When they can't go through a wall, they go around it. If they can't go around, they dig under. If they can't dig under, they find a completely new way nobody has thought of before." The Council chamber filled with dismissive laughter. Vex raised his hand for silence. "Enough of this foolishness. The quarantine stands. Their primitive attempts at spaceflight will be contained, and in a few centuries, once they've learned proper civilization, we will welcome them properly into the galactic community." As Bob left the chamber, he sent a coded message to Earth. "They won't listen. Proceeding with Plan B." In the mountain facility, Miller received the message and turned to his team. "Begin dispersal. Full radio silence. Just like we practiced." Across Earth, hidden preparations that had been years in the making quietly activated. Ships that didn't look like ships began slipping away from secret locations. Facilities that appeared to be one thing on scans revealed themselves to be something else entirely. The Council's patrol ships continued their precise routes, watching for the expected signs of human activity. They monitored for standard engine signatures, typical radiation patterns, and classical flight paths. They never thought to look for anything different. They never considered that humans might have developed technology that worked on completely different principles. They never imagined that the quarantine they thought would contain humanity had actually given Earth exactly what it needed: time to prepare without interference. As Bob's merchant ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, he smiled behind his visor. The Council thought they were dealing with primitives. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The alien monitoring station hung silently at the edge of the solar system, its sensors focused on Earth's major spaceports and military bases. The council crew maintained their usual routine, logging the same readings they'd seen for months. Minimal space activity, reduced satellite launches, and a planet apparently accepting its containment. They never saw the human ships coming. The first sign that something was wrong came when their artificial gravity flickered. By the time the alarm sounded, it was already too late. Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the ESS Shadow, Earth's first true stealth warship. From the outside, it looked like a chunk of space rock, a design choice that had made several engineers laugh during its construction. Sometimes the best hiding spot is in plain sight, Miller had told them. All teams in position. His tactical officer reported. No signs they've detected us. Miller nodded. Begin Operation Ghostwalker. The Shadow and 5 other disguised ships had drifted into position over the past week, moving so slowly that the station's sensors registered them as normal space debris. Now, they shed their rocky camouflage. Inside the monitoring station, the alien crew scrambled to battle stations. Their commander stared in disbelief at the sensor readings. Impossible. They don't have this technology. The human ships struck from 6 directions at once. Instead of energy weapons or missiles, they fired clouds of what looked like metallic dust. The aliens watched in confusion as the cloud enveloped their station. Primitive projectile weapons. The alien commander scoffed. Then the dust cloud lit up with electrical energy. Miller watched as the specially designed nanomaterial shut down every system on the alien station. No explosions, no destruction. Just precise, targeted electronic disruption. Another thing the Council hadn't expected. Humans preferred to capture technology intact when possible. Team 2, you're up, Miller ordered. Boarding pods launched from each ship, carrying soldiers in suits that looked nothing like standard space gear. Instead of rigid metal and plastic, they wore flexible suits that adapted to movement, based on technology reverse engineered from a crashed alien scout ship years ago. The alien crew's shock only grew as they watched humans moving through areas of their station they thought impossible for any species to survive in. Sections exposed to vacuum, corridors flooded with radiation, chambers with crushing gravity. The humans pushed through them all. How are they doing this? An alien officer asked as they surrendered. Those environments should be lethal. You'd be surprised what humans can survive, Miller said as he stepped onto the station's bridge. We've been preparing for space travel since before we had the technology to achieve it. Science fiction made us think about problems and solutions long before we faced them. Within an hour, the station was under human control. Teams of scientists began downloading its databases while engineers studied its systems. But the real prize was something the Council never expected humans to find. The station's FTL communication array. Send the signal, Miller ordered. Across human space, in hidden bases, secret colonies, and carefully concealed outposts, humans received the code they'd been waiting for. Years of quiet preparation were about to pay off. Bob Gray got the message in his merchant ship halfway across the galaxy. He smiled and began activating systems his ship wasn't supposed to have. Dozens of other disguised human ships did the same. In the Council's main fleet, ships suddenly found their navigation systems compromised by code hidden in routine trading data. Defense networks began experiencing mysterious failures. And in the Council's central database, a message appeared on every screen. Thank you for the technology you shared through trade over the years. We made some improvements. Want to see them? The Council was about to learn another harsh lesson. While they had been watching Earth's major military bases and spaceports, humanity had been quietly building an entire shadow fleet, hidden in plain sight. And now that fleet was ready to show the galaxy exactly why humans were considered the most dangerous species around. High Commander Vex stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, his pride struggling with the words he had to say. We have lost contact with our monitoring station in the human system. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Council member Tix's voice rose above the others. How? They are primitives. Send the main fleet. In the darkness of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Miller received the warning from Earth's deep space sensors. The Council's main fleet had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, 300 ships strong. Right on schedule, Miller muttered. He opened a channel to his scattered forces. All ships, Operation Hornet's Nest is now active. Remember your training. The Council fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their ships arranged in the time-tested arrow pattern that had won 1,000 battles. Their sensors swept space ahead of them, looking for the expected human resistance. They found nothing. No ships detected, reported the Council fleet's senior scanner officer. Their orbital platforms are abandoned. Their space stations empty. Vex, now commanding the fleet personally, felt uneasy. This wasn't how primitive species behaved. They should be throwing everything they had at the fleet in a desperate, doomed defense. The first attack came from inside an asteroid. A chunk of space rock suddenly fired engines, spun around, and launched what looked like a cloud of mining debris at the nearest Council ship. Before the Council gunners could react, the debris cloud had attached itself to the ship's hull and begun eating through it like acid. Scatter formation, Vex ordered, but it was too late. More asteroids came to life. Some launched similar debris clouds. Others released swarms of tiny drones that targeted engine exhausts and sensor arrays. Still others simply accelerated toward Council ships, forcing them to break formation to avoid collision. They're hurting us, Vex realized too late. The human attacks weren't trying to destroy his fleet. They were driving it exactly where they wanted it to go. The Council ships found themselves pushed into a region of space filled with floating wreckage from old satellites and space junk. Vex smiled. This primitive debris was no threat to his advanced ships. Then the jump came alive. Every piece of debris larger than a basketball contained a surprise. Some held electromagnetic pulse generators that shut down Council systems. Others released clouds of microscopic robots that invaded through hull seams and disabled weapons. The humans had turned their own space trash into weapons. Fall back, Vex ordered. Regroup at. A new signal cut through their communications. Captain Miller's voice filled every Council ship's command center. Attention Council fleet. Look up. As one, the Council crews looked at their overhead sensors. Their blood ran cold. While they had been distracted by the attacks from below, dozens of human ships had taken position above them. Ships that, according to all Council knowledge, shouldn't even exist. You can surrender now, Miller's voice continued calmly, or you can see what else we've learned while you thought we were contained. In the Council chamber, the emergency session turned to panic as reports flooded in. The humans weren't just fighting in their home system. Hidden human agents and ships were launching simultaneous attacks across Council space, using technologies that seemed impossible for their level of development. How? Council member Rix demanded. How did they advance so fast? The answer came from Bob Gray, who chose that moment to reveal himself. He stepped into the Council chamber, finally removing his environmental suit's helmet to show his human face. We didn't advance faster than you, he explained to the shocked Council. We just advanced differently. You climb mountains by looking for the easiest path up. We humans, sometimes we tunnel straight through instead. The Council was learning the hard way. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to think in ways no other species had considered. And they were just getting started. The Council's emergency bunker shook as another explosion rocked the surface above. High Commander Vex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In just 1 week, humans had struck 30 major Council worlds. Sir, a junior officer reported, we've lost contact with the Gamma Defense Fleet. How? Vex demanded. They had 100 ships. The humans. The officer hesitated. They didn't destroy the fleet, sir. They disabled it. Every ship is intact, but completely shut down. They're calling it the Ghost Fleet now because they're just drifting. Meanwhile, in deep space, Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the EFS Shadow, watching as his engineers worked on their latest captured Council vessel. What had started as desperation, studying and improving alien technology, had become humanity's greatest advantage. "Captain," his science officer called out, "we've cracked it. The Council's FTL drives, we found a way to make them 30% more efficient." Miller nodded. It was the same story they'd seen over and over. The Council had used the same technologies for so long, they'd stopped looking for ways to improve them. Humans, forced to think differently, found improvements the Council had never imagined. Back in the Council bunker, more reports flooded in. Human ships were appearing everywhere, using tactics no one had seen before. They turned asteroid fields into minefields. They used solar flares as weapons. They even found a way to hide ships inside gas giant storms. "Sir," another officer reported, "the humans, they're broadcasting a message to every Council world. They're broadcasting it in every language." "Show me," Vex ordered. The message was simple. It showed scenes from the destroyed research station, then shifted to images of peaceful human colonies. A voice spoke calmly. "We didn't want this war. We still don't, but we will finish it." In the Council chamber, now relocated underground, Bob Gray addressed the frightened representatives. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" he asked. "You thought being different meant being primitive." He gestured to a hologram showing human ships helping evacuate civilians from a battlefield. "Look at this. Even now, we're protecting your civilians. We're disabling your ships instead of destroying them. We're showing more concern for your people than your military does." The Council members watched in silence. They had expected humans to be brutal savages. Instead, they found an enemy that fought with both power and restraint. On the EFS Shadow, Miller received a new report from Earth Command. "Captain, the Council's defense network has been completely compromised. Our hackers found a way in through their garbage collection systems. Apparently nobody thought to protect them because they were too primitive to matter." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Launch Operation Clean Sweep. Hit every military target we've identified. Remember, minimal casualties, maximum disruption." Across Council space, human ships appeared from hiding places no one had thought to check. They struck with surgical precision, targeting weapons platforms, military bases, and command centers. But true to their word, they avoided civilian areas and captured enemy personnel whenever possible. In the Council bunker, Vex watched his mighty military crumble, not through overwhelming force, but through humans finding ways around every defense, exploiting every overlooked weakness, and turning the Council's own technology against them. "Sir," an aide reported, 17 member species are calling for an emergency vote. They want to discuss surrender terms." Vex sank into his chair. The mighty Galactic Council, ruler of 1,000 worlds, was being brought to its knees by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Not because humans had better weapons or stronger ships, but because they had something the Council had lost long ago: the ability to question everything and think in new ways. As the Council prepared to vote, Bob Gray sent a message to Captain Miller. "They're ready to talk. They finally understand why picking a fight with humans was their worst mistake. The war was reaching its end, but humanity's influence on the galaxy was just beginning." The Council's emergency bunker had become a center of frantic activity. Holographic displays showed human ships systematically dismantling defense systems across the galaxy. But what truly terrified the Council members wasn't the humans' military might. It was their efficiency. "Look at this," Council member Tix pointed at a replay of a recent battle. "They disabled the entire Sector 7 fleet without destroying a single ship. They're not just beating us. They're studying us even while they fight." High Commander Vex watched another screen showing human engineers improving captured Council technology. "They learn too fast," he muttered. "Every technology we use against them, They understand and improve within days. A junior officer rushed in with new intelligence. "Sir, we've decoded more of their historical records. Before space travel, humans spent thousands of years practicing." "Practicing what?" Vex asked. "Everything, sir. They created stories about space travel before they could reach space. They imagined alien invasions before meeting aliens. They thought about future problems and solutions centuries before facing them. They call it science fiction." In orbit above a Council core world, Captain Miller surveyed the battlefield from the EF's shadow. The Council's mighty defense fleet hung motionless in space, disabled by human countermeasures. But unlike many alien commanders, Miller took no joy in victory. "Status report on the Council evacuation," he asked. "All civilian centers have been safely relocated, Captain," his officer reported. "Our medical teams are providing aid where needed. The Council's people, they seem surprised we're helping them." Miller nodded. "They still don't understand. We're not fighting because we want to destroy them. We're fighting because they need to learn." Back in the Council chamber, Bob Gray stood before the remaining representatives. The room that once held the galaxy's most powerful beings now felt small and humbled. "You want to know why humans are considered the most dangerous species?" Bob asked. "It's not our weapons. It's not our ships. It's this." He tapped his head. "We never stop questioning. Never stop improving. Never accept that something can't be done better." He walked around the chamber, making eye contact with each council member. "You've used the same technologies, the same tactics, the same strategies for thousands of years. You forgot how to innovate. But humans, we take things apart just to see if we can put them back together better." The council members watched another display, showing human ships helping repair a damaged council colony. The same humans who had disabled their military were now protecting their civilians and rebuilding their infrastructure. "Sir," a council analyst reported to Vex, "we've discovered something disturbing. The humans, they've been sending us peace proposals since the beginning of the war. Different options, different terms, all designed to create a fair peace. We never thought to check our lower priority communication channels." Vex felt the weight of realization crush him. They planned for peace even while planning for war. In Earth's hidden command center, General Thompson reviewed Miller's latest report. "The Council is beginning to understand," Miller had written. "They're seeing that real strength isn't about having the biggest guns or the most ships. It's about having the wisdom to use power responsibly." The general looked at the latest peace proposal they had prepared. It didn't demand the Council's surrender or destruction. Instead, it offered partnership, suggesting ways to reform the galactic government to be more inclusive and adaptive. "Send the final offer," Thompson ordered. Across Council space, humans continued their precise campaign. Every victory demonstrated not just military power, but restraint. Every captured technology was improved and sometimes even shared back. Every encountered civilian was protected and aided. The Council had started this war expecting to face primitives. Instead, they found themselves facing a species that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment. Not through building weapons, but through imagining possibilities, solving problems, and never stopping to ask, "What if we tried this differently?" They were finally understanding why the old warning was true: never pick a fight with humans. They won't just win, they'll teach you a lesson in the process. The Great Hall of the new Galactic Assembly looked very different from the old Council chamber. Instead of raised platforms showing rank and power, all seats were on the same level. Representatives from every spacefaring species sat together, with humans scattered among them, sharing ideas and learning from each other. Captain Miller, now Ambassador Miller, stood at the speaking platform. The same calm presence that had led humanity's defense now worked to build a lasting peace. A year ago, he addressed the assembly. "We were enemies. Today, we're partners. Not because humans defeated the Council, but because we all learned from our mistakes. High Commander Vex, now serving as his people's representative, nodded in agreement. The past year had transformed him from a strict military commander into a thoughtful leader. The humans taught us something valuable, Vex spoke to the assembly. They showed us that strength isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about having the wisdom to use what you have in new ways. In orbit above the assembly world, the EFS Shadow had become a symbol of the new era. Once a stealth warship, it now served as a training vessel where different species learned from each other. In its labs, Council engineers worked alongside human scientists, combining their knowledge to solve problems neither could handle alone. Bob Gray walked through the ship's corridors, smiling at the sight of alien and human crews working together. He stopped at a viewport, watching ships from across the galaxy coming and going freely. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" a voice asked. He turned to see Miller approaching. "Honestly," Bob replied, "I hoped it would. That's the thing about humans. We always hope for the best while preparing for the worst." On Earth, the changes were just as dramatic. Council technology had helped clean up pollution and solve energy problems. In return, human creativity had improved almost every piece of Council technology they encountered. The Council wasn't wrong about everything, Miller told the assembly. They'd maintained peace among the stars for thousands of years. But they forgot something important. Peace doesn't mean standing still. True peace means growing together. The assembly chamber's displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. Human colony ships helped relocate people from overcrowded Council worlds. Council medical technology, enhanced by human insights, cured diseases that had plagued both species. Trade flowed freely, carrying not just goods but ideas. "We've placed warning beacons at the edge of our combined space," Miller continued. "But the message is different now. Instead of threats, they invite peaceful contact. Because we learned that different doesn't mean primitive, and new doesn't mean dangerous." Vex stood to address the assembly. "A year ago, I thought humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. I was right, but not for the reasons I believed. Humans are dangerous not because they're violent, but because they never stop asking questions. Never stop trying new things. Never accept that something can't be done better." He gestured to the gathered representatives. "And now, they've taught us to do the same." The assembly ended its session with a historic vote. The new laws encouraged innovation, protected the rights of all species to develop in their own way, and established programs for sharing knowledge across the galaxy. As Miller left the chamber, he passed a group of young aliens and humans studying together. They were designing a new type of ship, one that combined Council efficiency with human creativity. He smiled, remembering how this all started with a tragic mistake at a research station. "The universe is vast," he told Bob as they walked together. "There's room for all kinds of thinking, all kinds of solutions. The Council's mistake wasn't in wanting to protect the galaxy. It was in thinking there was only one right way to do it." Above them, ships of all designs moved through space. Some followed traditional Council patterns, others used human innovations, and many combined both. Each one proved what humanity had known all along. The most dangerous thing in the universe isn't weapons or technology. It's the power of an open mind